back in college, we would, like in a closeout this far, we would sprint half the distance, break our feet down, hands come up, and we'd slide half the distance. And that's not good enough anymore. So really what you have to do is sprint at least 2/3 of the distance, get your feet underneath you, your hands up early, kind of skip into the ball because of three-point shooting. Three-point shooting has changed everything. So on this one, we're going to close out. You're going to drive to your left, to the right lane, drive your baseline. I want a big explosion step. Explosion step to get ahead of the ball. You can dig away from the ball and you take one dribble, you're going to jump and shoot, I challenge, block off, you rotate. So the next thing we have to do is think about how we're going to play the ball. Obviously there are angles, there's footwork involved, all that sort of thing. Now in the pros it's a little bit different. The dribble is hard to contain. It's just hard to contain. So if we can stay with the ball for one dribble and allow our help to come into play, that's not bad for us. In college or high school, you should be working on probably defending 2 dribbles, 3 dribbles maybe on direct drive. But if we break down on this, the guys are past us and our help side can't even come into play. All right? Let's try this a couple times. Say it one half, long, go! So coaches, if you have 3 coaches, you can do this a little bit differently. But the coach with the ball, any coach at the sideline should be coaching, right? So if you have a guy coming out to you, you want proper footwork. We're a no-middle team, so I'm out about like here, and about 1 arm length away. And so the coach with the ball now is coaching. You know, and if some guy doesn't get it quite right, you can pull him back around, say something on the way to the baseline. I'm not talking about something derogatory. Helpful, teaching, right? The teaching. Go! Next sequence on this is we're closing out. Close out, put your hand up early, get it up early. Shot fake, stay down. A little bit lower, nose chest level, you should be down here, right? Shot fake, he stays down. Explosion step. Shot fake, he stays down. Now I go up for my shot. So this is our shot fake discipline drill, right? Shot fake discipline. I don't know if you guys struggle with shot fakes. That's why you should work on him offensively, because a lot of people go for it. And we have trouble with them because there's a lot of good players and they're very clever. So it's a discipline, right? So here we go. You got it, guys? Shot face, keep your hand up the whole way through on the explosion. Go! Hold on. Hold on. Good. Block. Go! We got 4 spots. We got 4 spots to fill, guys. And here's the other thing. If I were to press someone, there's an open spot, what am I going to do? Tell Joe to go take it? I'm trying to get ahead in life, guys. Go! Number 11. Jump. Jump with 2 hands right here. Yeah, show me. That's how hard I want to jump on the both sides. Shot down. All right? Go. Yeah, there we go. Long, go. Long, go. to take discipline. Simple, takes a lot of work, takes discipline, focus. Players are good, they're getting better. Everyone uses shot fakes. Look at it this way, the best basketball player mine in the history of the league was Michael Jordan. And he had more stuff to his game than anyone. Kobe Bryant, one of the greatest players in the history of the game. What does he have? All sorts of garbage that he's throwing at people. He's supremely athletic, but he's still using all of these shimmy fakes, shot fakes, ball fakes. Right? The best guys. Paul Pierce was pretty good at this too. Okay, so it's important, but you got to discipline. You got some players to not go for this stuff. Okay, let's move down to the corner right now. You guys are down in the corner. So you guys stay. We'll go inside here. So we have to design our fundamentals in relationship to what the league is calling. So we have, it's really interesting, officiating in our league right now is really interesting. They don't enforce half of the footwork, walking issues that they should. There are certain walking calls they will make, others they won't even look at it. It makes the league look bad because everyone is watching, or not everyone, but people are watching, coaches at least are watching, and young players, and they're seeing sloppy footwork. And I think it sends a terrible message, but that's where our league is right now. So you have to figure out what fouls they're calling because they're taught to call a certain way. And so we have to determine what we can do to not foul more. And so this is what we call chess. It's a long stance concept. But let's say if coach beats me to the basket, to the middle, I turn, and instead of doing any of this, arm bar, a little nudge with the hand, get a hand check, and so on, I simply go wide, keep going. And I use my body, which if our hands are out, I can really knock the crap out of him. No call, generally, unless you're moving up under someone. So this is something we practice, and we'll take a look at it. I want you guys to do the following. On the closeout, just take a couple of dribbles out, a couple of dribbles back, same for you, so we get a pretty good idea of chesting, physical, get into the ball without fouling, long stance. Ready, go! Quick. Whoa, go! Down here. Those NBA officials will get you. Go. Wait, go. Stop. Fundamental that we find that we have to work on. We do this every day of our closeout sequence. The next thing we're going to look at is what we call a quick closeout. You may teach some form of it, you may not. Some people don't like it, but it is how it is. So in the modern game, for us, our philosophy is wrapped around three-point shot versus two. 3-point shot versus two. We have to take the 3-point shot away. We have teams on any given night that are taking 40 to 45 3-point shots. The 3-point shot is a little bit like the home run on the road. People are hitting them, the crowd gets into it, a great deal of momentum, hard to stop. So we have a 3 versus 2 mentality. We want to get people inside the 3-point line if we can. And we do want to challenge 2-point shots, but quite frankly, there are teams we play that were committed to the 3-point shot and will give sometimes a shot that I've been taught not to give, but there's a general philosophy of play that you have to have as a defensive coach. All right? And you have to prepare your team for the following. They have to know exactly what is good defense. What are you trying to do as a team? All right? And if you know that, and Coach alluded to this a little bit, if you know that and you've internalized it, and a score happens within the context of this philosophy that you have developed, whatever it might be, you shouldn't have people getting frustrated about that. You want to take frustration out of defense. The game's frustrating enough. You want to be aggressive. You want to have what kind of mentality? Next play mentality. Now, if you're a coach, and I was certainly that when I started off, so I'm not excluding myself from this statement. But if you're a coach that dwells on mistakes, you're going to have a hard time, especially now. If you dwell on your players' mistakes after they happen, I'm talking about the game situation. Your teaching methods in the practice have to be who you are. The coach was talking about stopping things for kids who are learning how to play. That's important. There are people in the pros over the course of time who have stopped play all the time, and the guys aren't kids. They're men who know how to play the game. And again, you have to be careful with this. This is a balance, because you can't play if you don't develop flow, right? You have to have flow. So you have to determine if you're going to let things flow and then address it, or you're going to chop it up. As long as you recognize the two distinct ways of teaching, I'm saying either one's better than the other, although at my age, with what I do for the last 27 years, flow is better. But you have to decide that. Right? So this quick closeout, I'm late to the three-point shot, whatever happens. And so on my closeout, I'm going to be like a long jumper. And our concept is right to right or left to left. Most players are right-handed, so I'm coming hard with a jump over the right hand, trying to stop myself with a jab step, getting back into play. And if he does take one dribble, pull up, I'm coming with the opposite hand, not this way, which a lot of guys do. We have guys who do it that way. And it doesn't work because you're susceptible now to this motion, not so much that you foul, but again, the officials are looking for movements to call. Not the actual foul, they're looking at movements. You see this in our game when someone sets, the big fella here sets a really good pick on me. And it's totally legal, and it is so good, it just sends me sprawling. And now the mentality is, that looks bad on TV because it looks like he just really did this violent physical act. No, he didn't. He set a good screen, a legal screen. So this is what we contend with our officiating. All right? Left-handed players, just the opposite. You guys do this at all? Or? So most players are going to rush out to Steph Curry is open here. Most players will make an attempt and rush out, right? So again, we get back to technique. If I'm going to rush at you, and then at the last minute, I'm going to make a decision about how I'm going to defend the shot. And remember, my momentum is always going through the shooter on a quick closeout. Our momentum on a regular closeout should be back and up, because on a regular closeout, if you do this, you're going to foul, or he's going to get my body on the way by, right? So that's a big difference. So why not put some technique to it? The guys are going to hustle and going to do it. Put some technique to it. So this is our technique. You guys want to try this? Yeah. So everyone out here, left hand. Right. Right hand. So it's right to right. He's left-handed? Yeah. Good dude right here. This guy's probably the smartest guy on the staff, too. All right, here we go. 2-9, 2-9, 2-9. Go. Quick. Go. again, what the players keep getting more sophisticated. And what they do is, now our guys too, they shot fake and they stay, you go past them. These guys are really good at hitting that shot. These guys are, the shooting is just keeps getting better and better. It's interesting, in Europe, I don't think shooting is as good because they've copied all of our ball screen stuff and all that. And I think they've backed off a little bit in their fundamentals. Everyone used to be able to shoot in Europe 20 years ago. Because I coached in Europe over 40 years ago. You had these little baskets you put over the main baskets, and they were 8 feet tall. They played with a smaller ball. And I watch our players, kids, shoot. They're phenomenal. Small little dudes like this, throwing a three-point ball on the three-point line and make it. They can make it. Great athletes. But it's not really the way for most people to learn to shoot. Smaller ball, lower rim, and you build up. So these great shooters have tricks now. This is not foolproof. You can get scored off of it. But again, as we're closing out, in terms of the shell concept, we're going to talk about that a bit. But in terms of the shell concept, if we have a player closing out to the ball, what do you other guys think? Right. You're tightening your shell, you're squeezing. Because we all know this is the toughest play in basketball, when you have to make a distance up to a good player, right? He's really in the driver's seat. So you have to have a game plan, and you have to have fundamentals, but you have to have your other people or you're dead, right? Shell concept, okay? Any questions on that? Last thing we work on is, move on up again, we work on is exit. So, let's say I have the ball here in the guard, and I get to the corner, I get to the rim. Who's the helper on this? Okay. You're the helper. Who's covering that man in the corner? You're covering two. I need to pass in the corner. Boom. Now you're ready to X out. You don't have to run out and be right on top of the guy, but you've got to start off, and you're ready to go, and if the next pass goes, boom, you're on the ball. You guys, you can see this happening, obviously you're in. So on this drill, it's very simple. It's just a two-man X. As your bottom men are moving in, calling the X, you hear the X, you're going to the corner, you're going out, closing out, challenging the shot, walking on. All right, here we go. Long, go! Quick. Start again. Who's the quarterback? Who has vision on this? Who has vision on this? Who has vision on this? Who makes the call? The person with vision. You're healthy. You know you need help. Call the X. Got it? Go! Hey. Whoa. Shoot it. Clock off. Coaches, get up. Shoot it. Clock off. Go. Let's floor. Go. Four guys over there, figure it out. Go! So, a big part of defense is communication, right? And so, communication isn't easy. You have people who are talkers on your team defensively. You have other people who won't say a word. And we're battling one thing in particular with athletes nowadays, and that is the internet. And so, what happens in a pro game, big day, when we come in for our pregame talk before the game, everyone has their head down, they put the phone away. We leave, we come in at halftime, everyone has the phone up, put it down, we have our meeting. Now, our players, in many cases, are reading about the half that just took place. And what happens when you do? You have trolls, people who damage junior high kids, right? Elementary school kids. These guys are no different. So they might be reading a criticism of themselves. Not even, but many times. So now you're the coach. You come in after this. You might have someone hot because of what they read on the internet. And now you have got to do your job. What's your job? Make your halftime corrections. Hey, we need this from you. You know, the right way. Remember, when you are teaching nowadays, it's a lot of reinforcement, and you know, you got to do this, this, and this. It's changed. Much different. Will Hooker, fantastic human being, really good player, was recruited from that little town that tornado hit. He was a really yes sir, no sir person when it came in. And you could challenge Will. Will was old school. If you told Will he couldn't do something, Will was going to do it. My man Jervis Cole, same way. Easy to motivate. Old school. Most guys aren't like that. And I say this about the internet, it's not just from the standpoint of, from coaching standpoint, I gave you a lot of examples. It's more from a, well, let's think of it as a drug. And we're all drugged. Peter Sharp is probably like 75 years old now. It's a drug for him too. It can be for adults, it's not just kids. Not just kids. And so what's the essence of a team? What's the essence of a team? Me connecting to you, and me connecting to you, and you connecting to Will, and in a human sort of way, right? That's what a team is. And so things like this take away from the team. And it's everywhere, it's pervasive, but it's a drug. And we all have to educate our kids about that. I was talking to Jervis. Well, when I called Jervis, it's going to be at least an hour and 15-minute conversation. And I'm not talking that much. So I listened. But it was fantastic yesterday. Talking about issues. Kids, running kids. They have baggage. Our guys have baggage. Everyone has baggage. Coaches have baggage that we bring to the game. But we have to become clear-headed about one thing. People are connections, especially in team sense. It's the only thing that matters. And a lot of this other stuff is it's frill. It occupies your mind. It's information, but it's useful. It's useless. It's just information. It's data. And it's seductive. I don't know how we combat it. I'm not a big fan of big tech. Doing social engineering, taking us in places that we have no idea about. But that's going to be your challenge in coaching kids. Can you get their attention? And can you make them more human? Not that we're not human, but there are things that chip away at being a human being. In my opinion, that's one of them. All right, we're getting the closeouts. And so, if you run a format like this, let's say you're playing Houston, we're having to play James Harden, who's going to take God knows how many shots. So lefty here, so lefty. So what does James like to do? He takes the ball out about there and he starts dribbling with it, right? Trying to set up his step back. So on the drill, we're going to do it be a 2.9. Everyone is working on this. You're a little higher over there. And so we come up, make our closeout. As soon as he starts, the little dance and so on, we try to get up on his left side, like so we're in a position to challenge the shot. Generally, the clock is in our favor, right? Does this at the end of clocks a lot. And so if he wants to drive, that's fine. We've gotten him off the three-point line, and then we've been able to defend him in a way that we would like to defend him rather than him dictating to us. So any kind of quirkish thing that you're seeing, even if you're coaching elementary school, junior high, it doesn't matter. What is being used against you, and what do you need to drill? What do you need to put together to make your players better? Same process as in the NBA. Nothing changes on that one. All right, how much time do I have? Just getting started. All right, so the next drill that we would do is the following. A trap box. So we have one ball now. I've got the ball. Balls are off. Same thing, 2.9. This is just your standard. We could run this drill in the following way. Let's just do a shell drill real quick. Your long, make your stances. Go! Six. Good. Nail. Good. Stop. Very good. All right. The shell is everything in basketball when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. You need the shell in defensive transition. You need the shell in your half-court activity. Any ball screen coverage, you're going to have 3 people away from the ball who have to be shelled up in some manner, knowing what they have to do in case of a breakdown. Critical. So this is the old shell drill. So we do a little bit of this, but what we do a lot of is the following, all right? Concepts we used before. Concepts we used before now. We're going to get into shells. Just do it has to be boom, out, go. Go down. Stop. Okay. So right now when you catch, I want you to drive. I'm going to give him the drive a little bit. So he's going to drive right into this area. What do we do with a corner three-point shooter? Help like this? It's an automatic three-point shot. You have to stay home with the corner three-point shooter. And it's not just sitting on top of coach over here so he can't catch the ball. You've got to be a real actor on this. You've got to be in a long position. As the drive is coming, you want to give a stunt to the ball and not lead. A stunt to the ball, so if that pass goes, you're right here. So it's step right. On the weak side of the floor, the coach is going to drive. Let him drive, okay? So let the coach's corner drive through. So I'm coming. You're the helper. Maybe not that high, but you're the helper. Pass goes. What are we working on now? X. Kick it back out. Shell. Hit the coach over there. Coach is right to the baseline. Grab the box. Move over. Number 11, move over. All the way over. We're sinking. Ball goes out. Boom. X. Get out of there, okay? Nice read. Big stayed in. Smaller player came out. Not small, but my target's small now. This is bigger, right? So this is the format that we do a lot of work on. We scramble around. Let's try it a couple times and go get less. Come on, go! We have to stop with that. I want to go overboard on this. A couple of things on this. Coach is driving, and I'm the help man. Let's say you're on the ball. Let's say beat you a little bit. When we get into these blitzes, these traps, you want to see 4 hands up. We as a team do a lot of reaching on this, and that doesn't always work out. So we want to pressure him. If we have time, we'll get into his body, right? Your body a little bit. 4 hands up. No one else is ready to meet the act. Okay? Good. So that's another basic warm-up drill that we'll do. Try to hit a couple more things. Just going to talk a little bit about defensive transition. Coach set up the drill. We usually do it with 5 people. And you can have 2 players stay, so it's a 5-on-3. And just a couple of thoughts on defensive transition. In those settings when you're going away, this is very important. You've probably all seen Steph Curry play. How much of the time is he on the baseline after a drive? On the floor. 60% of the time. Right? So it's not only him, but we lose a man in the process of transition. So if I am the person who went to the hole and got knocked on the ground, right? I have to leave going down the court. Now generally, let's say you guys are offense now, so you have the ball. You just ran to the corner, let's say you're a big right to the rim. The ball is on one side of the floor. We should have set our shell with whoever we have back towards the ball. And this guy is really critical. Because let's say, we'll just see one guy. One of you guys just step on, let's say through the post. You're over here. You're over here on this side. And, I'm the last man down. We've shelled up within reason. My job is almost always to the weak side of the floor. To the weak side of the floor. And I've got to find the shooter, because defensive transition for us now is finding 3-point shooters. It could be your biggest guy on the floor, and he's on the point guard coming down. He's got to get out, because that's the nature of the game now. So, just a couple of thoughts on defensive transition. The mentality we have is paint, problem, man. Okay? Get back to the paint if you can. That's a little misleading too, because if everyone gets back to the paint, you have this great perimeter shooting, you're going to give up 3s. So this is within reason, right? The next thing we have to do is, what's the problem? Well, it could be a 3-point shooter. It could be someone who's trailing in. Find the problem. And then lastly, which most people, including our guys at times, don't grasp, is we don't have a man. You're essentially running back to a shell, and you have these concepts in mind. Paint, problem, man. When the ball is shot, our rule is we try to, we don't always do it extremely well. On the rise of the shot, we like 3 people back. It doesn't matter which 3. Doesn't matter. But we need people going back. And a little tricky area is this deep rebound. If I'm a big guy and I'm not inside of 15 feet, at our level, you're better off getting back. Whoever it is, if they're close enough to the rim, could be your one guard. Steph, arguably the best rebounder on our team is Steph Curry. Steph is a phenomenal rebounder. Gets stuck inside a little bit too much and hurts us on the defensive transition side, but he's a terrific rebounder. So if anyone is inside and can crash the board, he crashes, other people get back, right? In getting back, defensive transition is not pretty. It's maybe shoving someone out to get the ball. It's certainly talking to each other. It's certainly pointing who's open, talking. This is the toughest part of the game. In the pro game, I would tell you this, that if you make good defensive transition and you play reasonably good half-court defense, you're going to have a good defensive team. But you can get brittle at our level in defensive fast break basketball. It's incredible how efficient people are, and how efficiently they can shoot the ball. So those are just a couple of things to add to Coach's Al Lobombo drill. Don't forget his name. Last thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you our 8 transition drill. It's pretty simple. Let's get about 6 guys down there. Get them all here. Okay, so you guys are going to get wide and you're going to weave down the floor and you're going to weave back. You guys are on the baseline. Okay? So weave, we're going to run. start. Okay, stop right here. Stop. Go back. Thank you. You guys ready to go? You take the ball out of the net. Whoever scores, the ball is going to step out of bounds. You two guys are sprinting back on defense. As soon as you step out of bounds, you've got to come in bounds, you've got to have vision, and go to whatever problem you see. All right? Then it's 3-on-3, if we can get to a 3-on-3. If there's a turnover, you know, and the other team gets it, they come down and score. If someone scores going that way, take the ball out of bounds, 3-on-3 comes back. Here we go, try. So if you see that happening and that shooter's open on that side of the court, just go to it. Unless he needs help in the thing. So, yeah. Right? Got it? Here we go again. I haven't run this drill for a while, so you guys might as well come back the other end. This is a drill I love. It's an old Pat Riley drill. I thought it was, I think it's so, it just covers a lot of bases. You know, not only defensive transition, but also just playing the game. Then you can teach your defense out of the 3-on-3 format. You got it? You got it. Good. Quick. Come on. Good. Shoot it out of bounds. Get back. Get back. Go. Play. You done with it? Close out. Help. Stop. Good job, guys. So, early in the season, it's a good conditioning drill. Maybe you have 2 courts to work off of. So, there are other transition drills. But what I like about this drill is you have to expose the defensive players. This is really good drill for doing this. Because we had a guy who forgot to get back, it's a basic part of the game, right? So getting back and being disadvantaged, that's a simple part of the game, right? So defensive transition, when you get back to protect, really boils down to tandems and triangles. Trying to get back, set up. What did Coach say when he was talking about taking up space? Taking space. You want to take up space. And then that last guy back has got to be turned on, focused. What's going on? You see this all the time. I'm talking about the NBA. I'm not talking about high school. People just, for the last person down, and this is what's running. Does that happen in the NBA days? No. Never, David. All right, I'm done. That's good. I'll take some questions. Yes, sir.